remember now that everything that we talk about here in the classroom is in your manual, and there's a lot more detail in your manual. So we really encourage you to go through, thumb through the chapters as we're talking about this, because one of the main reasons for this workshop is just to get you familiar with what's in here. Not to memorize it, but just to be familiar with what's in here. So yesterday we talked about safety, and that safety chapter, really, there's a lot more detail in there than we were able to cover yesterday, as far as there's some charts and so forth that summarize placing cones and so forth. And all that's really important for you guys to have done, because that's part of OSHA. You know, and that's for your safety too. And then we talked about pesticide and fertilizer, and there's a lot more in the book and the manual here than what we covered there too. So today we're going to be talking about, first about, just very briefly, about rubbish and debris in gutters and ditches, and what are gutters and ditches and swales, and how to maintain them. After that, Christy Martin will be here talking about invasive species. And the main thing there is, as far as you guys are concerned, is identifying any new invasive species coming into your area and getting rid of it if you can, but mostly letting the invasive species committee know that it's there, and then they'll come out with a whole crew, and then they'll really, you know, do the whole area, not just the roadside, but they'll go up into the mountains and so forth, because certain things they really want to eliminate or prevent from coming in. And that's not just weeds, that's not just plants and invasive species, that's animals too, especially snakes. If you see any kind of snake, then for sure report that. Okay, chapter 7, if you want to thumb over there, I think it's on page 130 something. 130, yeah, it's only 2 or 3 pages there. So this is just really clarifying what you're responsible for as a part of your regular maintenance. This would be these 3 pieces of construction, really, here, gutters, ditches, and swales, are all sort of meant to do the same thing, only they're at different parts of the landscape. And you're responsible for maintaining, both DOT and private contractors are responsible for maintaining these areas on a regular basis. And probably anytime you're out there doing mowing, which is the main thing you're doing, at least once every 2 weeks or so, you'll be doing this as well too, because this is pretty much a part of the prep of the land before you mow. You want to get rid of rubbish and things like that. So what are these? Well, gutters are the concrete lined roadside curbs and so forth, and their main purpose is to carry away surface water, ordinary old runoff water. And curbs always have a storm drain every so often, and that goes down into the storm drain, which eventually leads to somewhere, and eventually leads to the ocean directly. That water isn't treated, right? So we want to make sure that nothing goes in, comes down the gutter and plugs them up, for one thing. Because once they get plugged up, then they're going to overflow. They'll go into areas that we're not supposed to go into. And also making sure that no contaminants go down into there, especially things like fertilizers and pesticides and anything other, oil, as much as possible. Any spills and so forth are cleaned up and not allowed to go into the storm drains. So that's just a part of your ordinary duty. Now, some of these gutters, the curbs along these gutters in very high maintenance areas, urban areas, we're going to ask that they be edged, actually with an edger rather than with a weed eater. And that's just a very small area, but this is what we're basically talking about later in the morning when we talk about edging. Ditches are more open areas, fairly steep-sided. Oftentimes there'll be curb line, concrete lined, and their main area is to conduct stormwater. If there's any overflow from the curbs, or sometimes the storm drain will go into a ditch and then into a stream, that's the main purpose of the ditch. So they have to be kept free of any rubbish, any limbs, anything that's going to block water flow. They may or may not be lined, or the bottom part may or may not be vegetation. Sometimes it is. And in that case, the vegetation does have to be periodically either mowed or weed whipped or something to keep it clear. But a lot of these ditches are just glorified gutters, bigger glorified gutters. Swales are a little bit different. Swales are larger areas, not quite as heavily sloped. Oftentimes they're vegetated, the sides are grass or whatever, the bottoms are grass. And their purpose isn't really just to get rid of the water. Their purpose is to hold the water and let it sink down into the aquifer, because we want to prevent as much runoff as we can. So swales are actually little lakes, and they're meant to hold the water temporarily so that it can sink in. Now, if it's too much during a heavy rainstorm, they will overflow. And they normally would overflow into ditches that go into storm drains or into streams. So these are the three main things that you would be responsible on a regular basis. Normally, every time you mow, you would be checking these things to keep them clean. Here again, a steep-sided ditch over here helps to conduct water off. This all concrete lined. No guttering up here. You see, this is in rural areas. Ditches more are rural type things that take the place of gutters in urban areas. And then a swale here is this larger area here that is meant really to retain the water for a while and let it sink into the aquifer. And if it overflows, there's provisions for overflow on down. So this is the main difference. So all these here are going to be maintained. This has to be maintained here, mowed every once in a while, weed whipped over here, same thing. Keep this area clean. But the main thing is what we're worried about is the actual ditch itself, to keep it free for water flow. Okay, the maintenance involved here, of course, it's a safety issue and protecting the environment as well too. Here again, these are all checklists in your book. It's only about a 4-page chapter, so you can refer to these checklists here. But keep everything on the right-of-way, free of litter, rubbish. Now, not just the swales. You want to be doing the same thing for medians and all the roadsides, right? And especially before you mow, you don't want to be mowing over a lot of the rubbish that's thrown out there. Some of the highways that have what do they call the groups that come and adopt a highway. Yeah, that's really, I'm sure, a big help to you guys, because they take care of picking up the rubbish and so forth. And part of that job, I guess, would be also to maintain the swales and so forth free of rubbish. One thing they probably aren't doing, though, is clearing it of large limbs and things like that, which would be more along your lines. You would have the provisions to do that. You know, clearing all the landscaped areas, not just the swales and gutters and so forth. Twice a month, that's basically when you're mowing. So this would be the same time that you're doing all this rubbish work. And make sure that your work site, when you leave it, is kept. You know, everything's picked up. You don't want to be leaving piles of things to come back and pick up later. Everything should be taken with you at the end of the workday. Any erosion areas, of course, should maybe not be treated right there, but at least reported back. And something should try to be done. You report back to the supervisor, report these kinds of things in your daily or weekly reports. And then something maybe can be done about potential erosion. This is important here. EPA does monitor this kind of activity, this kind of, especially for ditches and swales, as a part of the Stormwater Act. So EPA is not just DOA and not just DOT, it's EPA. And there's heavy fines, up to $25,000 a day for failure to comply. And that they can fine the state as well as they can fine a contractor as well too. This would be for gross negligence, I would suppose, but those kinds of fines are out there. So it's very, very important that everybody comply with keeping things clear. Okay, in the case of blockages, of course, that's going to cause flooding, potential flooding. I'm sure a lot of you here on Oahu remember, well, it's been maybe 8 or 9 or 10 years, maybe even now, in Manoa, when Manoa Stream got clogged up, that culvert up there right above UH. And what happened is that rubbish during a really heavy rainstorm washed down all of the limbs and so forth that had been left alongside of the stream, which is not really DOT's responsibility. I don't know whose really it is, but homeowners and so forth were cutting things, throwing it in along the stream bed. That all washed down, along with cars and everything else, and all came to a stop right there in the big culvert that goes under, I think, East Manoa Road, right by the shopping center, and all the water just went around, right down through the middle of campus. Boy, it took out the library, took out the building that I used to be in. It caused a lot of damage. Those are the kinds of things that can happen in very heavy rainstorms when rubbish comes down. So here again, maintaining earthen ditches and swales and so forth to prevent kind of that. Culverts are the major problem where things will actually gather up. So making sure that the culvert itself is clear, and this is not the responsibility of the private contractor. State DOT is responsible for actually clearing under the culverts. Private contractors should report that, and then DOT is responsible for coming in and clearing it out. So if you see a lot of rubbish in the culvert itself, that's the responsibility of DOT. But there again, they should immediately notify DOT, the engineer DOT, so you guys can go out and clear it. And normally what happens is that right after a flood, we keep it, everything really clear for a while. And then as time goes on, you kind of forget a little bit more. People begin to throw things back into the stream beds, and the whole thing happens 10 years later. And how do you control that? Well, I don't know if you can, but at least you can expect it, I suppose, and keep at least the right-of-way free of this kind of debris. Things not to do, of course, any burning along the roadside is not permitted. Fines for that. You can't burn anywhere anymore, right? You can't even burn your own trash like you used to be able to, and that kind of, yeah. There's no burning period, let alone on the roadway. And here again, you can't stockpile things and come back later along the road and pick them up. If you're pruning, you can't leave a big pile of stuff there and come back, the next day or whatever. It all should be chipped on site and carried away, or at least carried away that same day. And there are fines, again, for contractors for stockpiling any materials in the right-of-way. These are all things, again, that the inspector would be reporting, most likely, in his or her monthly report. Training, there will be, as a result of this program, in years to come, maybe some more training classes like this periodically. Most of it, a lot of it anyway, on safety issues like this, updates on various OSHA requirements and so forth. The current BMPs, that means the best management practices, the way we think things are most efficiently done. For right now, these things change over time as we get a little bit better ideas from time to time. So the BMPs are constantly being revised, being changed to do things more efficiently, and that's what these training classes would be about. The training schedule will be publicized if and when it comes out. One of the main things going on right now is the stormwater training programs that are carried out periodically that some of you people have to attend. has a website here. Again, that's all in your manual you can refer to. And especially for private contractors, they have to comply. The management at least has to comply with all of these updated kinds of training programs. Okay? Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Yeah. Okay, we have a quick quiz here, and then Christy's here, so we can go right into the invasive species. Just a few questions here on, pass those back, on the rubbish. Oh, can I have one too? Thank you. Any of you Indianapolis Colts fans are seeing what's going on with the draft? Anybody interested? No? Nobody likes the Colts here. Everybody likes the 49ers, I suppose. Well, you know, they've got this issue about drafting Andrew Luck or keeping Peyton Manning. You know, that's kind of a hard call, you know. Yeah, you think well, they $50 million to keep them both, so I don't think they'll do that. So, I'm from Indy, so I'm more interested. No, they haven't. Well, they've already announced that they're going to draft Andrew Luck, #1. You know, so I mean, I don't see how they can. They do. Yeah, Indy does. They have already said they're going to take Andrew Luck. Yeah. So whether they trade Manning or what, I don't know. He's had 3 neck surgeries, so this is the time to go out. He's got more money he can ever spend, you know. He got $28 million just this year. 1 year. Yeah. For making a couple of commercials, actually. Okay. Everybody get... Okay, #1. In general, a ditch is vegetated and gradually sloped, whereas swales are usually concrete. Is that true or false? That's false. Other way around. Yeah. The ditches are usually concrete line. It's just a matter of terminology. What's the main purpose of a swale? What's it there for? What's it to do? Yeah. Hold the water. Yeah. Hold the rainwater. More little lake. There is runoff, but it's more to hold it up. #2. It's okay for the contractor to stockpile green waste. False. Yeah. Can't do that along the right-of-way. You can do it in your own yard, you know, your own base yard, but not along the roadway. #3. Environmental EPA officers monitor gutters, ditches, and swales and may fine HDOT $25,000 a day. That's true. Not only DOT, but they can fine the private, well, it would go back down to the private contractor if they're responsible. #4, maintaining gutters, ditches, and swales includes what? A, C, and E, not B. Only not B. They don't, burning excess debris and stockpiled, not that. But everything else, A, C, and D. Okay? Very good.